Imagine this. You are a proud homeowner in the lovely continent of Asia. Suddenly, you wake up to realize your home's value has reduced by a whopping 50%. You can no longer afford to pay the mortgage, and you are looking at foreclosure. Sadly, this is the reality for millions in China right now. The country's real estate sector is in crisis. Asians and everyone else are wondering what to do. In this video, we will dive into the Red Dragon's real estate crisis and its impact on the Asian economy. Do you want to know how to protect yourself and your loved ones from the fallout? Watch the video till the end. For decades, China has become a real estate monster in Asia. This stronghold has thus become unavoidably linked to other economies on the continent. China's ever-dynamic real estate market has emerged as a formidable force that dictates what happens in other Asian economies like Indonesia and Singapore. China was championed as home to the world's biggest real estate market in 2022. According to the National Bureau of Statistics of China, the country accounted for 29% of the global construction market. This immense success has led to a similar development in related industries such as architecture, interior design, and property management. The Asian giant has sought real estate investments and burgeoning property values, leading to an unmatched expansion in the entire continent. This desire to stay at the top of the global construction market has positively impacted other Asian economies, especially members of the building materials supply chain. For example, the Indonesian Ministry of Trade recorded a 45% increase in raw materials exported to China between 2015 and 2020. Similarly, the Malaysian Timber Industry Board recorded a 25% surge in timber and related wood exports to China within the same time frame. Evidently, China's lucrative real estate market has been a blessing to both countries and many more. However, even such a real estate powerhouse like China can experience fluctuations and some really low lows. Because of its interconnectivity with other Asian nations, the consequent ripple effect from China's real estate market was felt across the continent's economic landscape. For starters, the strict regulatory measures implemented by the Chinese government reduced controversial real estate funding in the country. However, this decision resulted in a decline in raw materials from countries such as the previously mentioned Indonesia and Malaysia. Between 2020 and 2022, Indonesia reported a 15% reduction in raw material exports to China, while Malaysia noticed a 20% drop in timber exports. It is not far-fetched to call the ongoing real estate dilemma in China a ticking time bomb. The colossal threat will send shockwaves through the Asian economies if it is not taken care of as soon as possible. Sounds like an exaggeration, doesn't it? But it is true. Let us look at the facts. China has been a significant export destination for several Asian nations. Last year, the Red Dragon was responsible for over 20% of exports from Vietnam, South Korea, and Thailand. In 2021, over 30% of global iron ore and cement imports made their way into the sleeping giant. If China's real estate crisis is not stopped quickly and the market plunges more, these countries' economies will undoubtedly be affected. For instance, China reducing its construction efforts would lead to a decline in demand for building resources imported from its neighboring nations. Besides, if the Chinese were to reduce their consumer spending, countries like the Philippines and Malaysia would experience a downturn in exporting electronics and textiles to China. Another way China's real estate market is connected to Asia's economy is via investments. In 2022, Thailand and Vietnam recorded 25% of their foreign direct investment, FDI, from the Middle Kingdom. Investment in several office buildings and condominiums in Jakarta and Bangkok can be traced to Chinese investors. If China's real estate industry were to take more hits, Chinese investments in such projects would dwindle. Already, Vietnam and Thailand observed a 20% fall in FDI from China. Let us also look at the relationship between China and Asian banks. Financial institutions on the continent are interconnected and attend to the needs of Chinese real estate financiers and borrowers. The Bank for International Settlements reports that Asian banks have loaned $2 trillion to the Chinese. If these debtors don't pay back their loans, these banks could experience massive losses. Not only would it destabilize the Asian banking system and result in a credit crunch, but it would also make the loaning process more difficult for businesses and individuals from other Asian countries like Hong Kong and South Korea. The Asian Development Bank has already lowered its 2023 growth prediction for the region, underscoring the risks that China's real estate crisis holds. A downturn in economic development in Asia potentially has unfathomable consequences. It would lead to an increase in the continent's unemployment rate. Consequently, the standards of living of Asians would decline, and there would be a rise in poverty. Also, Asian countries would struggle to default on their loans to other countries, leading to a financial breakdown. Imagine a Vietnamese real estate developer relying on Chinese investment to build a condominium complex. Little to no Chinese FDI in Vietnam might force the developer to abandon the project, rendering hundreds unemployed. That's enough talk about the sleeping giant's real estate crisis. Yes, we have established the impending doom if the real estate problem is not resolved as soon as possible. However, what if the crisis is not taken care of quickly? What if the crisis, unfortunately, lasts for decades? China's neighboring countries can implement some strategies to lessen the risks posed by the real estate crisis and develop stronger economies. One major step is to diversify their export portfolio. For years, countries like South Korea and Thailand have relied heavily on China to purchase their exports. If this were to change, their economies would become less vulnerable to fluctuations in China's real estate sector. This scenario can happen if these Asian nations develop new markets in the United States, Europe, and other regions. Thanks to trade agreements like the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership (RCEP), they can promote the trade of their exports in these regions. The 2022 RCEP, the largest free trade agreement in the world, establishes a single market for products by 15 countries in the Asia-Pacific region. Therefore, the trade agreement makes the process of Asian nations trading and investing with each other quite easy. India's booming trade relations in the ASEAN region have stimulated its economic growth and made it resilient to external uncertainties. Another option is to broaden capital buffers for banks. Capital buffers are money financial institutions must hold in the event of losses. Increasing such buffers will make banks more resilient to unexpected events, such as a steeper crisis in China's real estate industry. The Bank for International Settlements, BIS, introduced new capital requirements for banks in 2022. This decision will upgrade the international capital buffer by roughly $2 trillion. Increasing infrastructural investments would improve employment rates and lead to a surge in economic growth. Investing in education, healthcare, and other social programs will improve citizens' living standards and make their workforce more productive. The Asian Development Bank, ADB, has reported that the continent must invest $1.7 trillion in infrastructure yearly from 2016 to 2030. Additionally, Asia must spend $1.4 trillion in the same manner on social programs. Also, Asian banks should work on their risk management practices. They could better assess the risk of lending money to Chinese real estate developers. The BIS has released several publications which serve as guidelines for market risk, credit risk, and operational risk. Of course, unity, as always, will solve this issue as well. Deeper regional cooperation among Asian nations will boost their economies and lessen their vulnerability to disturbances. An example of such cooperation is developing suitable policies to tackle challenges like the climate crisis. They can address this problem by creating renewable energy sources and diminishing greenhouse gas emissions. Finally, these nations can drive their efforts toward promoting domestic demand to lower their dependence on exports. A great case study of this strategy is Japan's successful transition towards domestic-driven growth. The country was battling its economic dilemma in the 90s, but was able to resurge its economy thanks to this decision. Thanks to China's real estate crisis, other Asian countries are uncertain of what will become of their economies. However, by quickly adapting and implementing specific strategies, these nations can build a more sustainable and resilient economic future. Therefore, Asia can weather the storm of this crisis and emerge better and stronger. We have come to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out other videos on your screen. Thanks for watching.